every time you scroll past like a blurry video on your feed that has one of those synthetically generated tags, or, you see a detailed fact check warning slapped onto some provocative post,
Right.
you are not just looking at a helpful platform feature. I mean, you are actually looking at a highly calculated, desperate legal shield in action.
Oh, absolutely.
So, welcome to today's Dep Dive. We have a massive stack of sources to go through with you today, like legal analysis, tech policy documents, all detailing the evolution of Indian intermediary liability and safe harbor rules over the last 25 years.
Yeah, and it is a really profound shift because we are basically looking at the architectural blueprints of how the modern internet is governed today.
Right.
These are the rules that dictate whether, a tech executive gets to go home at the end of the day or actually goes to jail for something a random user posted on their platform.
Which is wild to think about.
It is, and that legal shield is known as Safe Harbor. Specifically, it's under Section 79 of India's Information Technology Act.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our mission for this deep dive is to really explore the journey of how our favorite apps and websites went from being, these completely innocent, passive pipelines in the early days of the web to functioning as these highly regulated digital police forces today. Like, if you've ever wondered why platforms suddenly seem completely obsessed with tracking metadata or, shrinking their takedown windows to just a few hours, the mechanics of this evolution explain exactly why.
Yeah, exactly. And to understand the modern friction we're seeing, we really have to establish the baseline first. So under the original Information Technology Act of 2000, an intermediary was, well, it was largely just a telecom provider, right? Like a web host or a search engine.
Just the basic infrastructure.
Right, they're considered technical conduits. And the legal philosophy back then was that they enjoyed absolute immunity for any third-party content.
Wow, absolute immunity.
Yeah, provided they function purely as passive network pipelines. Like, they could have absolutely no role in initiating or modifying the data.
Which, I mean, that makes total sense for the year 2000. It's essentially the postal service model, or the telecom switchboard.
Right.
The post office just delivers the sealed envelopes, right? They don't read your mail. And the phone company connects the call, but they aren't listening in. So they obviously can't be sued if two people are, planning a crime over the phone.
Exactly, that was the logic. But reading the sources, there was actually a massive mechanical flaw in how that original 2000 rule was written.
Wait, really? What was the flaw?
Well, the phrasing of the law created just a complete logistical nightmare because the original text stated that an intermediary was exempt from liability only if they could prove the offense was committed without their knowledge, or that they exercised like all due diligence to prevent it.
Wait, so the burden of proof was entirely on the platform?
Yes.
How does a platform in 2004 physically prove to a court that they didn't know about a pirated movie link hidden deep in some random user forum?
Well, they can't. I mean, proving a negative, demonstrating a total lack of knowledge across millions of data points, it's structurally impossible.
Right.
And this vulnerability totally exploded into public view with the Avnish Bajaj case.
Oh, I saw this in the notes. This is the marketplace CEO, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The CEO of an online marketplace was actually arrested because of an obscene user-uploaded video. And, the legal shockwaves from an executive facing criminal liability for user-generated content, it forced a complete overhaul of the system.
I bet. I mean, nobody's going to build a tech company if the CEO goes to jail for a user's bad behavior.
Right, which brings the 2008 amendment into the picture. So the government basically flipped the script from liable unless proved innocent to immune unless statutory conditions are violated.
Oh.
They introduced this concept of conditional immunity. So Safe Harbor now survived as long as the intermediary observed specific due diligence guidelines and, crucially, acted immediately to remove content upon getting what they called actual knowledge of an unlawful act.
And the sources say they expanded the definition too, right? Like it wasn't just ISPs anymore.
Right. They deliberately expanded the net. Intermediaries were no longer just network providers. The 2008 definition expressly included online payment sites, auction platforms, online marketplaces.
Basically everyone.
Yeah. If you facilitated a digital interaction, you were swept right into this Safe Harbor compliance regime.
But wait, this phrasing introduces a massive loophole, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, if I'm just browsing a social media platform and I see a post I personally dislike, and I hit the report button, like, does my report legally constitute giving the platform actual knowledge?
Yeah.
Because if anyone can force a platform to take down content just by spamming the report button, we are looking at a heckler's veto. I mean, a small group of loud users could censor the entire internet.
And that exact vulnerability became the central tension of internet law for the next decade.
Really?
Because think about it. If a user report equates to actual knowledge, corporate lawyers will inevitably just advise the platform to delete everything that gets flagged.
Just to be safe.
Exactly. Just to maintain their safe harbor shield. It strongly incentivizes absolute chilling censorship to avoid any liability.
It forces the platform to just err on the side of deleting completely legal speech rather than risking a massive lawsuit.
Which is exactly why the Supreme Court of India intervened in the landmark Shreya Singhal case. The court fundamentally reinterpreted Section 79 to save free speech.
Okay, how did they fix it?
They ruled that actual knowledge cannot simply be a complaint from a private citizen. It actually requires a court order or formal directive from a government agency.
Okay, so the platform only loses safe harbor if they ignore, like, a judge or a formal state authority telling them to take something down.
Right.
That protects the platform from the heckler's veto, sure, but I mean, doesn't that create a massive new bottleneck? The courts can't physically issue orders for every single piece of copyright infringement or harassment on a rapidly scaling internet?
No, of course not. The scale of the web completely broke the judicial mechanism. The government quickly realized they couldn't rely solely on court orders to govern the digital space,
Right.
which forced them to step in with comprehensive due diligence rules. Platforms had to start publishing terms of use, prohibiting specific categories of content like obscenity and hate speech, and even appointing grievance officers just to handle the sheer volume.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting. Because those stopgap rules weren't enough, we arrive at the 2021 intermediary rules, which completely replaced the earlier frameworks. And just reading the source material, this feels like the exact moment the internet transitioned from, like, a loosely governed public square into a highly regulated, corporatized environment.
Totally. The 2021 rules introduced a tiered regulatory structure. So you had your standard intermediaries, but if your user base crossed a specific threshold, you were suddenly categorized as a significant social media intermediary, an SSMI.
And the moment you become an SSMI, your compliance burden just becomes extraordinarily heavy.
Oh, absolutely punishing.
Like, the geographic mandates alone are staggering. Global tech giants could no longer just manage their Indian legal compliance from a desk in Silicon Valley, right?
Right. The rules demanded a chief compliance officer, a nodal contact officer, and a resident grievance officer.
Yeah.
And all of them had to physically reside in India.
Just consider the psychological and legal shift there. I mean, you now have named executives physically located within the jurisdiction of Indian law enforcement who are personally liable if the platform fails to comply with government directives.
Or even if they just fail to submit their mandatory monthly compliance reports. It ensures the platform has real physical stakes in the country.
But the mandate that caused the biggest earthquake for these significant intermediaries was the traceability requirement, the first originator rule.
Yes, that was huge.
The sources detail how platforms providing messaging services are now legally required to trace the very first person who sent an automated or encrypted message if they get ordered to do so.
And this is where the philosophical shift is complete. The intermediary is no longer a passive conduit, not even close.
They've transformed into, like, a digital bouncer.
Right.
I mean, not only do they have to break up the bar fight when the government tells them to, but they are legally required to keep a meticulous logbook of exactly who threw the first punch, even if everyone in the bar was wearing a mask.
That's a great analogy. The tension, however, is that human moderation and traceability, well, they only work when you have human timeframes.
Right.
Just as platforms were building out the infrastructure to handle this intense tracking, the architecture of the internet fundamentally changed again. Non-human generation bots, automated spam, and AI completely broke the scale.
And that forced the government to drastically compress their response times. But before we hit the whole AI panic, the sources detail this crucial transitional phase in 2022 and 2023. Because platforms were now heavily moderating content to comply with those 2021 rules, users were getting banned at just unprecedented rates. So the government had to build systems to manage the fallout between these massive tech platforms and everyday citizens.
Right, so the 2022 amendment created grievance appellate committees, or GACs. And this was really a recognition that platforms wield immense power over digital speech.
Yeah.
If an algorithm incorrectly bans a user, or removes totally legal content, the GAC provides a formal, state-backed mechanism for that user to appeal the platform's internal moderation decision.
So the government is essentially setting itself up as the final arbiter of digital disputes.
Basically, yes.
And that expansion of state power leads directly to the 2023 introduction of the Central Fact-Checking Unit, or FCU. Now, I want to just jump in here for you listening, because our goal today isn't to take a political stance on whether state-backed fact-checking is good or bad.
Of course.
We're purely looking at how this shifts the legal mechanics of the internet, strictly according to our sources.
Exactly. And mechanically, under the 2023 framework, the fact-checking unit was empowered to flag information concerning the business of the central government as false or misleading. This functions as a totally new pipeline for actual knowledge. Intermediaries are directed to remove content flagged by the FCU, and failing to do so jeopardizes their safe harbor status.
It's an incredibly potent tool, but the sources also highlight that this immense power to issue takedowns wasn't left entirely unchecked, right?
Right.
Like by 2025, the government introduced procedural safeguards to prevent the abuse of these actual knowledge pipelines.
Yeah. The 2025 reforms introduced intentional bureaucratic friction. Executive takedown orders can no longer be casual, unrecorded requests. The rules mandate that orders must be written, thoroughly reasoned, and issued by an official no lower than the rank of a joint secretary.
They also added a mandatory review process. An officer at the secretary level actually has to review these takedown decisions every single month.
Right.
It forces a paper trail and demands proportionality. It seems like they're trying to balance rapid state intervention with some level of accountability.
They are. But rapid state intervention becomes physically impossible when the threat moves at the speed of computation. Which brings us to the 2026-1 amendment.
The AI panel.
Exactly. This amendment focuses entirely on synthetically generated information, or SGI, and deepfakes.
And the compression of compliance timelines detailed in these sources is just wild. Under the old rules, platforms had a relatively generous 72 hours to remove unlawful content after getting a directive. Now, because deepfakes can ruin a life or swing an election in an afternoon, the government demands the removal of non-consensual intimate imagery within 2 hours, and other prohibited synthetic data within 3 hours. Wait, 2 hours?
2 hours. We really have to ask how a platform physically achieves a 2-hour takedown window across billions of concurrent users.
Right. Human moderation cannot function at that speed.
It can't. It
No.
absolutely mandates the deployment of aggressive automated detection tools. The amendment effectively creates strict liability for hosting deepfakes.
So, if we look at the specific requirements, platforms are mandated to preserve provenance and embed non-removable metadata. How does that actually work mechanically?
Think of it as a digital fingerprint baked right into the actual pixel data of a video. When an AI generates a file, the platform's systems must embed cryptographic markers identifying its synthetic origin.
Okay, so it's hidden inside the file itself.
Even if a user downloads that video, compresses it, and then re-uploads it from a totally different burner account, the platform's automated systems must be able to read that invisible fingerprint and instantly flag it.
Wow. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, the platform is explicitly mandated to act as an AI governance participant. They are legally liable for the architecture of the media itself, not just the distribution.
Exactly. And the proposed 2026-2 amendment takes this even further.
Oh yeah, I saw this.
It moves beyond invisible metadata. It actually demands a persistent visual watermark. A notice indicating a video was synthetically generated must be available in a visual display throughout the entire duration of the content.
A permanently branded internet, not just a tiny tag tucked in the description, but a constant visual overlay from start to finish. And if the platform fails to apply that watermark, their legal shield dissolves entirely.
Precisely.
Which leads us perfectly into the final phase of our deep dive. We've traced the theoretical evolution of the law. Now we need to examine how these severe compliance mandates are currently fracturing in the real world.
Right, because the progression from passive conduits to proactive co-regulators, it has basically eroded any certainty surrounding safe harbor. It now operates as an active, ticking clock compliance standard. Operational failure literally equates to statutory forfeiture.
And we are seeing this play out right now in high-stakes litigation between the government of India and massive entities like Meta.
Oh, heavily.
The sources highlight a massive ongoing collision regarding WhatsApp. WhatsApp recently proposed a feature allowing users to select pseudonymous usernames, effectively hiding their actual phone numbers from public display to enhance privacy, and the government immediately blocked it.
The mechanical conflict here rises all the way back to the 2021 first originator traceability rule. WhatsApp operates on end-to-end encryption. The content of the message is locked in a cryptographic envelope from the very moment it leaves your device until it reaches the recipient. WhatsApp argues that breaking that encryption to trace a message compromises the security of the entire global network.
But the intervention petition in the sources points out the flaw in WhatsApp's defense.
Yeah.
The government isn't asking to read the letter inside the envelope. They are asking for the delivery address on the outside. Because even with encryption, the platform registers the phone number of the person sending the data packet.
Exactly.
That phone number, the digital delivery address, is the crucial piece of traceability required by law.
So if WhatsApp transitions to a system where users only interact via chosen usernames, disconnecting the account from a registered SIM-linked phone number, the platform essentially destroys its own logbook. They would then be able to claim technical inability to identify the originator. The government recognizes that moving to usernames breaks the legally required traceability pipeline entirely.
It is a fundamental architectural clash between user anonymity and state security. And Meta is actually fighting a second battle on Instagram regarding artificial intelligence, right?
Yes, they are.
Instagram was recently accused of serving AI-generated advertisements that featured child abuse material. While Meta took the ads down, it exposes just a glaring gap in the current regulatory framework.
It completely forces a reevaluation of due diligence.
Mm.
I mean, if an automated system generates illegal content and the platform's own automated ad-serving algorithms fail to detect the violation before it goes live, who's the author of that content?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Did the platform forfeit its safe harbor the millisecond the synthetic ad was displayed?
Exactly. And this friction is why the government has taken these tech giants to the Delhi High Court. They are desperately attempting to break this endless loop of litigation. Because every time a new technology scales, like encrypted messaging or generative AI, the government updates the intermediary guidelines. And every time the guidelines are updated, the platforms file injunctions claiming the new technical mandates are unconstitutional or just technically impossible.
So it's just a stalemate. But the government's argument to the court is that this continuous dispute prevents them from actively governing the digital ecosystem.
Right.
The core tension is that platforms desire the absolute legal protections they enjoyed in the early 2000s while utilizing the algorithmic generative power of the 2020s.
They want the immunity of a passive bulletin board while operating a highly curated, algorithmically driven casino.
Wow.
The government's stance is that you cannot possess the power of the latter without accepting the legal liability of the former. The era of the intermediary as a neutral, detached observer of digital life has been legislated out of existence.
So what does this all mean? Over the span of 25 years, our sources show a deliberate mechanical shift. The legal definition of an intermediary evolved from a neutral carrier of information into a compelled co-regulator of the digital ecosystem.
Yeah.
Safe harbor is no longer a static shield you can just hide behind. It is a highly active, operationally intense standard where missing a 2-hour detection window exposes executives to criminal prosecution.
Which really, if we step back, this raises an important question. It's something for you to mull over as you navigate your own digital spaces today.
Yeah.
If maintaining a corporate legal shield now requires platforms to trace the originator of every encrypted message, extract metadata from every single upload, deploy automated detection tools scanning for synthetic fingerprints, and persistently watermark media within a 2 to 3 hour window, is the era of true untraceable anonymity on the internet officially over?
Man, that's a heavy thought. The architect of the digital public square isn't just checking IDs at the gate anymore. They are legally mandated to install a surveillance system that watches every single interaction every second of the day.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the evolution of safe harbor rules. Keep questioning the digital architecture around you, and we'll see you next time.